in Burkina Faso. That is why they want to eliminate Traoré and many others. That is why they are sponsoring insurgency in Burkina, in Mali, in Chad, in Guinea, in northern Nigeria. They are alive and well. And if you ever doubted me, only listen to them, listen to them. Listen to the French president and you know. Listen to the prime minister of the not so United Kingdom. Listen to them. Remember when the colonialists came, they told us that everything about us was wrong. They told our women, straighten your hair, bleach your skin, abandon your nails. They told us and we believed them. They told us that our names were not good. So they told us that when you are a Christian, you must adopt a name which is essentially English or French. But they told us it's Christian. The impact is great and alive and well. They even told us that our languages are bad. That's why I'm addressing you in a foreign tongue. I would have addressed you in Kiswahili. They even described us as Lusophone to mean we speak Portuguese. Francophone to mean we speak French. And Anglophone to mean we speak English, so that many of you young people will learn about this continent courtesy of history. This continent was overrun and our sons and daughters were taken away, so that when we celebrate or commemorate Africa Day, and by extension Pan-Africanism, we must never forget that Africans were taken away of this continent, and today you find them in the diaspora in countries such as Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua and Barbuda, Jamaica, Bahamas, Guadeloupe, Martinique, St. Kitts and Nevis, Cuba, Colombia, and in different parts of the world. They are Africans. And this is what gave meaning to the iconic words of Kwame Nkrumah when he said, you are an African, not because you are born in Africa, but because Africa is born in you. Today we are assembled here to remind ourselves that after slavery there was another project, the colonial project. European powers, all of them, in 1884 and 1885, sat down in Berlin, in Federal Republic of Germany, and divided the continent into spheres of influence. The Portuguese were there, and they took their colonies. They took Angola. They took Cabo Verde. They took Guinea-Bissau. They took Mozambique. The French were there. They took Togo, they took Benin, they took Burkina Faso, they took Mali, they took Guinea. The British were there. They took what is now Kenya, Uganda, Zambia, Malawi, which was then Nyasaland, Zimbabwe. They took Somaliland. The Italians were there. They took Libya. They took Somalia. The Germans were there. We should never forget. They took what was then Tanganyika. They took Togo. They took Dahomey. They took what is now Namibia. They were there. The Dutch were there. All of them were there. And Adekeye Adebayo, one of the great African writers, writes a book, The Curse of Berlin, in which he looks at the continent of Africa and looks at her after Berlin and the creation of the countries that we now know, complete with passports, and which we are proud of, and for which we fight and spill blood. But even during those difficult days, when the continent of Africa was under colonial domination, the desire to regain independence was always alive. When, courtesy of history, you read about Pan-Africanism, you'll meet individuals such as Henry Sylvester Williams of Trinidad and Tobago, who convened the first Pan-African meeting in the year 1900 in London, England. You'll meet individuals such as George Padmore, individuals such as Marcus Mosias Garvey. They were thinking about liberating the continent of Africa not only from the chains of slavery, but colonization. Indeed, it can be argued that aside from Ethiopia, which was never successfully dominated, and Liberia, which became a settlement for freed slaves under the Monroe Doctrine, the rest of the continent of Africa was under colonial tutelage. And the spirit of Pan-Africanism that was planted in 1900s by our kith and kin who had been enslaved became the basis of organized struggle for independence. It left the Caribbean and came to the United States of America, where great men such as W.E.B. Du Bois, sometimes referred to as the father of modern day Pan-Africanism, were in the forefront of the struggle for liberation of black people. Those of you who are South Africans will have heard of a great South African who at age 27 was a student at the University of Columbia and delivered one of the most iconic speeches ever delivered on Africa, Pixley Kaisaka Seme, one of the founders of the African National Congress And I urge you to go and read his speech delivered in the month of April 1906, the regeneration of Africa. The spirit was to regain independence so that when the fourth Pan-African meeting is held in 1945 in Manchester, in the United Kingdom, which is not so united as we know, Africans are there. Kwame Nkrumah is there. Nigeria's Obafemi.
Racism and I say, or you will be a unpowerful for them. Utati no or kasa de ko nyamsum a abrofono atiti mu. Se say or chere de ntira on ani abere se on beyi Ibrahim Traoré afri ho. On say Ibrahim Traoré ba Omo yeku akọ be 20 times. Na busa se adenti ena omo wo adwen se abranti a ono obua ne man no omo yi ni firi ho. Na we ma yehu sankrofo we adwen se omo mpa ye nkoso ba akokra. Omo mpa ye nkoso ba akokra. They try to come with aids. Say on be boy in school dying, on be boy in hospital. Ombe boy yakwan, but omo and can't say what dream we say see factory because we have say we see factory na raw materials no o de ye adwuma awa bibima mu a wani bebie o si omo baaye no omo ma ye hu yi say edin a yen ye won anya papa eno kra de me kra no nim edu ba bia meti ase no na Ayamiya because na me sisano enye yie yo say o papa to din na ya catch us say this is your Christian name na omo nso no omo abrofo no omo Christian name ya den omo bo modern say na ya dwen ye school no aye ko no de ebesua bia de efa wo mo ho de ebesua bia na ya de efa wo mo Obi wa Germany yentu gold ho anso mo koskua na akire omo se na esi to gold edi entra omo ba Africa na omo abesesa de yen no ye wo abra yen e koskua no yen kire we hu bibia we do me nka se bi ntwam because e koskua awia na kom de me pa na ya draw Africa map da ho and Nekrank Africa map made me and name ayi na a teacher now say name the capitals. Na mama say come demi on chira me there me free me square sapmans your form for be dey ko bobra on na sanction be school be there as na me the capital of Nigeria ebe day o senti o mo boa ya wonim say na ahie bia ne da Africa Abranti be small kind say yen yet mem mo buy am so be discover ai oman a yen ya yetimu a yenim ye say ye man aha no kopim ha mo buy am so na mo be dis Africa nye Africa ne yetu din o Africa nye din omo na tu Africa so wonimu a Romans ne be tu din Africa the opese o kire ne say omo akase bibia nye ye bibia nye but Ibrahim Traoré wonim say Ibrahim Traoré ahye mra say obi biara otetin haban na otumi aye no abrafo kwanso no say o man be kwan say hospital bia no enyisu herbs abrantie we adwen ye stronko opese o yi abrofo na adwen firi on tirim kra na omo school tade enyi na no omo enwene no wo Burkina Faso ho opese o kire won say bibini ebetumi abuni man wo de mre bi na me kama say sanke wiase kura ni baabia ena nka Africa nko an ye ho no a endi so ye ba agwoji nyansa na firi fa nneɛma nnɛ abibimam mu nkurɔfoɔ ɛyɛ enti wotie papa yi a ne nsɛm a ɔka no ɔmo abɔ mmɔden a sɛ ɔmo bɛyi adwen sɛ woyɛ bibini na ɔkyerɛ sɛ yɛmaa no na yɛayɛ nku a ɔmo de po yɛ ho sɛ ɛwɔ sɛ woyɛ te sɛ ɛnɛ deɛ ɛnyɛ deɛ ɔmo de po yɛ ho ɛnɛ deɛ ɔmo worɔ wedie no ankasa ɔmo worɔ wedie no na bɔwerɛ na nisu atɛtɛ na wɔde biribi ahyehyɛ hɔ na nsɛn maame bi a ɔwɔ radio station bi wɔyɛɛ na afei wɔn yie nyi afei na ɔka mu sɛ ɛdeɛ aguru na wɔde hyɛɛ yɛ a bɛsɛ metimani a ɛnte wɔn wɔn aka wɔsi na nso ɔbɛn na nisu kakra mɛbɛka na gye sɛ mo de nneɛma tuatua m'ani ho now deɛ Ibrahim Traoré ɛbɛ sɛ ɔkyerɛ Africa de sɛ we are not under curse and we are not disabled. We are capable. Black man is capable to manage his own affair. Enti sa nyani we sa nkanya we ena Ibrahim Traoré Erade nam no suma kanya se say kanya African crony nyina o enti wotie obi ti say Lumumba ya oya professor wa ben ankasa o ka kire ne nkrofo say enka ogina won animu yi enka odi ne kromu kasa na be kasa kire o but omo ama yasese e kasa o ba ba bia Africa haya o ye won nkrofo o mo ka France ye won nkrofo o mo ka brofo ye won nkrofo o mo ka de edi entira o mo na kire se o mo be discover land no enti land no ye o mo dia enti wonim Burkina Faso Mali ena Niger na France fo no se ye o mo dia enti di o mo pe no mo ye ena nkrofo ehunu yiye se da bi e free sambre yi koide ye mma mo kwan bi ena o mo ti kwapae no eno na won ati kwapae no se o mo nte ase se o man ya yen adi mu so musuma nyamfa ahudi na wo de tia irowusem o mo sika na o mo adie no se o mo kotwe sika ni free France no mo twe sika na awie no na won asa charge France for no o mo asa taxi wo mo afa de o mo se 3 nations yi o mo ankasa e be twe sika baako na ebesa Africa Ghana eba ka ho ana ana Ghana still ano ye wo ECOWAS no ye musi ye se ECOWAS ne de na ye mai eno na kan on bi bebu on ECOWAS ye kan West Africa ye kan ye ho bom no ye musi ye ho se e de na bu ai enti wotie nsem se ya mane nkanya na ade ba ko amesre bibini ni se ye mfa komapa ye mfa dwempa enyina ye beye achi na owo bibi papa bi a ebeboa yemen. Now let me run up with this. We ought to support this young man spiritually, physically and everything. We ought to stand with him because Ibrahim Traoré is an architect for Africa. He is engineer for Africa. He's a star for Africa. He's a king for Africa. He's a captain for Africa. God bless Ibrahim Traoré. Bye-bye.